Sorry, guys, for I had a bit of a problem. So this will be part two of the recording, of the album review of Patti Smith. Patti Smith. I'm sorry, Patti Smith's 1975 album Horses. All right, so I was talking about Redondo Beach being the first real new wavy album. I'm not going to talk about every single track, but there are some other tracks that I think are important to bring up. Like, Birdland was... It was kind of like... It had the same... Because there's this bass in these songs to start with start with like piano to work up to a rock instrumental, to a rock, basically to start with piano and then gradually turn it into a three-chord punk rock song. And Gloria, Birdland, Free Money, and Land were pretty much the best examples of that. The best examples of that on the album. Another thing about Patti Smith is that there's so many like kind of characters and iconic lines that are just influential. Like in Birdland, it's the almost sort of mantra, "We are not human," as a theme playing throughout the song, and you're just thinking, it's interesting. And then there's Free Money. Free Money is kind of like this big satire on greed and this, people care about money so much, money, people think money can buy you everything. And it's sort of this grand, this big statement about how I think the real meaning of it is money can corrupt people, and it's a great song. It's another big highlight on the song. Album. Then, we go to the last song I'm really going to talk about, and this is Land, but it's split into three parts, and this is probably the most monumental part of this album. It's the longest track, but it's also it's so, it brings up this, it tells the story of this kind of punk kid named Johnny, who, he's getting, there's this kid who shoves him up to a locker, and a bunch of stuff happens, and an angel comes down and stuff. It's so, but, Patti Smith's combination of, street knowledge and just street characters that you would just find anywhere in New York City, with these sort of outside of the known world sort of heavenly figures, is so interesting. Like the combination of spirituality and sort of religion with these kind of rough and tumble kind of gonna beat you up kind of people. And it's so interesting to me. It's like it paints this really beautiful picture of New York City. and just that sort of area, and just and also inspires you to it makes you do a lot of thinking. It's not just talking about New York City. It's talking about its problems. It's talking about things that should change. It's a very, very interesting dynamic of this album. Back to Land. Land is, and I'm almost positive here. It's kind of like the refrain of Gloria, in that the main riff is sort of played again throughout Land, and they never go back to the chorus or anything, but you feel the energy that came from the first track kind of come back again to Land, and you just start thinking about how far you've come from the very first track to the second to last track, and you're just thinking, wow, this is it's a monumental album. And I think the characters that were inspired, the characters that inspired this album, the situations that inspired this album, the things in Patti Smith's life that inspired this album, it's so rich of detail and really, this is one of the first true punk albums that come from New York City. But it wasn't just that. This is a landmark. This is like poetry. This is not just a punk album. This is the only punk album that dives this far into its themes, into such intellectual thoughts and ideas. It goes so much deeper than any other punk album had gone before and ever had. It goes so far, and Patti Smith broke so many new boundaries that were never going to be passed again. No one was going. No one. This was territory that only the folk, some of the folk superstars were ever going to reach. This was not within 3-chord, street rabble punk rockers were ever going to reach. This is far above and beyond it. This album and its lyrics and its style are so distinct. When I listened to it, I thought it was actually literally going to be just an album, just an earlier punk album that just preceded preceded Ramones and stuff like that. When I listened to it, I was just like, I was so surprised about how intelligent and how deep this album goes. I strongly recommend listening to this album. This has got to be one of the greatest albums of all time. And if we're gonna go by rating, I would call it a definitive masterpiece. 5 stars and a half. You cannot. It was so because it was so influential to this sort of more intellectual alternative rock that would come in the 80s, but also it was so just groundbreaking in the way it merged that intelligence with, you know, with street knowledge. That just it makes it really, really untouchable album. So yeah, that was my review of Patti Smith's Horses. Sorry, it had to be split into two parts. But yes, that was my review. And I just want to say, have a good day. I'll be recording sometime tomorrow or something like that. Stay indoors, stay safe, don't go around infecting people. Anyway, so bye guys, see you later, and like and subscribe the videos, don't just, so, alright, bye.